Okay, this one actually does go right here. It goes just like that, but now we're going to have to do some modification to these to make these things actually fit in here, because these are not fitting like they're supposed to. Aftermarket ship, $80 by the way. Tell you what, these wow. I'm a little bit speechless over the situation because these are really something else. So let me get one of these modified and see where we're going to take this action, because this is not what I was expecting. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to actually make this one work. We don't have any other choice. It looks like even the ridges in the piece are not exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure this out, and the first thing that I see what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get this lip where it's flat like that. So to do that, I'm going to take my cutting wheel, and it looks like, if I am looking at this correctly, it looks like it goes all the way over to here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this right here. And then, since this is missing right here, we're going to go ahead and cut it right here at this bend here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my hammer and dolly, and we're going to use a nice flat dolly on this with a sharp edge, and we're going to go ahead and hammer that down. Just like that right there. And now this piece actually looks like that piece. And then I don't know what's going on over on this side. We haven't even got there yet, but it looks like, for some odd reason, in this area right here, this actually folds up that way, Let's get under the car and look at the other one and see what that looks like. Because I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you, this is actually starting to be turn out to be a clown act situation. Let's get up here and see what's going on with this thing, and hopefully we'll be able to figure it out. But if you look right there, let me get a good handle on that. If you look right here, you can see here is where I flattened it out along this edge right here. All right, and then if you notice, this thing kicks that way. So it kicks out to meet this corner right here of this quarter panel section, or should I say the inner fender well, and it ties it all together. And then if we look over here, you can see right here where the floor actually spot welds to it here, and then right here is that section that's bent to grab the quarter panel itself and move it around. So if this is going to sit right here, that means that this section has to be bent out that way, is what I'm speculating. So I guess, well, you can see where it kind of comes up right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my cutting wheel, and we're going to come right here, and I'm going to cut this lip so I can contour this out. Just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and flatten this down over here using our hammer, just like that. And since this is, it's going to go on like this, of course this would be our trunk floor over here, this would be the outside of the car, that means this has to come that way. So what I'm going to do with that angle is I am going to freehand curve it, and I don't even know if I'm going the right way here. So it does look like I'm going the right way, but the problem we have is it curves up and then goes back that way. So I'm going to go ahead and catch the end of my table here. Kind of do a little situation like that, and I don't know. All we can do is work it, if that makes any sense. Just work the situation, make it all work out for us. All right, so we flatten this out and this. And I don't even know if that's going to go on there like that. That looks like that's actually supposed to be straight. So maybe if we go ahead and dolly this down here, and come back here and kind of hammer it that way, and then we'll just flatten that edge. Kind of bring that like that, and I'm just randomly using my hammer and dolly, trying to mimic my way into making this $80 piece of metal work. Let's get down there and see where we got to go from there. I can already tell you that this is cut longer. We're going to have to shorten that up, but we're not going to do that until actually we get it on the vehicle and work with the quarter panel itself. And then this actually looks like it's supposed to be flat as well. So I don't know. go ahead and use this end of the dolly and see if we can form that. There we go. Then we'll get this in the corner here. So what I'm getting at is this is a patch panel that is not accurately made perfect on purpose, and it's something that you have to actually fit, cut, fit, chop, and weld yourself to make it work. So let's get down there and see what happens. Okay, now that we have flattened those edges out, and it looks like this might be a little long over here, but you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here, and that's going to fit right in there like that. But this corner is really messing with us, so let me go ahead and bend this corner here. I'm going to bend it out of the way, and then we'll get all this under there, and then we'll bend it back into place as we fit it on here. Just go like this right here, just kind of bend it out of the way is all I'm trying to do. And we can always hammer and dolly that back in place, but I want to get this corner up in there so it'll fit like that right there. And then once that happens, of course I got to remove this. I got to get this out of here because this is actually part of that. Let's go ahead and see if I got all the spot welds off, see if we can pull this thing out of here. So this kind of gives you an idea how tricky a lot of this is when you're dealing with this kind of work. You got to take that piece of metal, you got to look at it, you got to focus on what you're doing, and you got to jump in there and just do it. That's what you got to do. I think that corner was part of this. If I can get that off of there. There's one right here. And there's another one right there I'm looking at. I can see it right here. So we got to get that out of there. So we took that section out. Let's get it up here and see if we're going to be able to use this thing. And it looks like it's going to work out good if we could just get it in here to fit in there where we're supposed to have it fit. So let me get some vice grips and we'll clamp it up on here and form it all to where it's supposed to be. So if I look at this right here, that needs to be bent out just a little bit. And then we can go ahead and set this on here and put this like that right there just for now, because we got to get all this fit on here like it's supposed to be. And we aren't even going to weld this yet because we have to actually fit the quarter panel to this. So just because we're putting this on here doesn't mean that we're going to weld it up. All we're doing is fitting it on here so we can mold it in place. That's all we're doing. And actually, to be honest with you, there was a little modification we had to do to these, but I think they're going to actually work really nice. So, and I can see right here in this area where my hand is, I can see that this is pushed out and needs to go in just a little bit. And if you look right here, you can even tell by the spot welds, this is sticking out farther than we want. So I'm going to go ahead and get a different hammer to go ahead and dolly that in. And the hammer choice on this situation is this one right here, which is rubber on one end, hard plastic on the other. And we're going to hit it right up here where the curve is. Remember, I cut that right there. See that splice? So we shouldn't have no problem. And there it is right there. Just like that. This thing is really starting to fit nice. I'm really liking it. Now we got this situation back in here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this because I got to hammer and dolly this inner fender well and get all that flattened out. And you can see, just by what we've done, that I'm starting to take this piece of metal and mold it to what it's supposed to be like. Once again, this here is going to be cut off, and we're going to cut this off. I'm sure this was made long like that because you cut this off when you get your quarter panel on, or this might actually bend to give it a lip. So I'm just going to take my dolly. You can see it right here. This is the dolly that we're using. All right, and I'm going to take my body hammer. Just like that. There was actually one more thing on this cart that I didn't like, and that's this inner lip right here, and I'm going to go ahead and make that section. I'm not going to buy an inner fender well just to replace this, but before we do that, I want to get the floor extension fit in where it's supposed to go. I noticed that the weld's busted loose back here, so we're going to remember that. It goes right there, and we'll weld that back together. But this section right here where my hand is, I'm going to have to cut this out right here, and then I'm going to make this piece because it's just rotted out right here. That's how much rot. You can see where my hand's fitting in here. So from here all the way down to here, I'm going to have to make this section so we can put our quarter panel back on our inner fender well. So now that we've gotten this all straightened out and it's kind of out of the way, we're going to go ahead and fit this back on here just like we had it. I'm thinking it's going to go just like that. Let me go ahead and get it where it's supposed to go here. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and clamp that down just like we had it before. Using our C-clamps, very important tool when you're doing this kind of work. This is a must. So the more C-clamps you have, the better it is. A lot of people talk about using those Zoot clips or Zert clips, whatever they're called. I don't believe in them. I'd rather use a self-tapping screw than one of those. But to each his own is all I can say. But now that we've gotten this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and manipulate my way to get this to fit on here like it's supposed to, and see where we can get that way. So we know that this here lip actually goes inside there. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll take our vice grips and we'll vice grip that down to hold it. Now, normally I would use self-tapping screws, but I'm not ready to permanently mount this yet. We're still fitting this piece, remember? This is an aftermarket piece, and I probably presume this is how these things come. So I don't want to manipulate my way in screwing that down and saying, hey, that's where it's going to be. That's why I'm relying on my C-clamps to hold it in. Now that we got this down, we're going to go ahead and take our hammer and kind of get this. See if we can get this where it's supposed to go. Get my dolly back here. And you can see it's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to fit flawlessly perfect. But you got to do what you got to do. Can we move that in closer? Let me look back here and see what we got. So if we look back here, we can see we're hanging off of here just a little bit. Maybe I could push this in, and what that'll do, that will bring our extension in toward the fender well just a little bit more. Now you see why I'm not using screws on this, because we really can't. We got to manipulate our way. What I've done by hammering and dollying it, you can see it right there. All right, I'm starting to form this piece, and so it'll look like the other side. So what I'll do while I have it out here is I kind of got the shape of where this thing's going to be ending up. I'm going to go ahead and kind of get this kind of flattened out and in its shape where it's going to be, like that. You see what I'm saying? And then now what we'll do is we'll take this thing and we're going to push that corner all the way up in there, but see, that's not going to work like that, because then this isn't riding where it's supposed to be. But we might be able to manipulate our way where it's still going to work. So let's go ahead. You can see where I moved that down, but that's all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push that corner in, and then I'll go ahead and clamp this down right here, giving me space here where I can use my hammer and dolly. Go ahead and clamp that down. I'm using a lot of clamps here. And now we're actually closer to this metal here, where we can probably manipulate our way into where we're going to cut this section off, because we're going to have to cut that off. Remember, I told you, I'm sure he made that longer than it was supposed to be. So let's get our dolly and our hammer, and then we'll go ahead and get that like that. And one concern I have is this right in here. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bump that corner in just like that. And then I think that's going to go right there like that. And that looks like that's going to go just there. So what I'm going to do is I will take my cutting wheel and I'm going to cut this off on the back side, and you're going to see it, how it's going to form when I get it cut. And then I think that's going to fit on there. Now, this was cut straight down and it's a little bit short, but that's okay. And we still got this lip here to deal with down here, but let me get my cutting wheel and I want to cut this off. Of course, that's just a rough cut. That's not the cut that we're going to call permanent. We're just forming it and making it work. And then this is going to go right here, just like that. And I'm going to clamp this down where this goes. And now you can see that it's starting to look like a quarter panel floor section. I'm sorry. This would be your extension. This is your floor. This is the extension where the quarter panel comes down. But you can start seeing how it's going to take effect here. Once we get this knocked in here where we want it, we'll probably cut the excess off. And that's how it's going to go right there. And now, having that vice grip there holding it, we'll be able to hammer and dolly that a lot easier. Now don't forget, we still got this down here to deal with that we haven't done anything with, but we're going to do that later after we get the quarter panel on it and fit that to our floor extension down here, because we might have to hammer and dolly this lip right here. You see what I'm saying? We might have to hammer and dolly this in or out to match up with our quarter panel. So now that we got this, let's go ahead and work on this up here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take our body hammer, we're going to get our vice grips out of the way, and we're just going to fit out there in place. That's all we're going to do. We're going to go like this right here, and we're going to get that to mold to the floor itself. And now you can see right in that area, let me pull my camera over here. You can see right here what I'm doing is I'm stretching that metal by using my hammer and dolly. So when we clamp that down, watch what happens. It all fits together and works. Just like that. If we look back in here, you can see that we're really looking good right here in this corner. Everything's matching up just like we want it. So there you go right there. That's how you hammer and dolly and fit a roughed in floor extension. And not all of them are like this, but a lot of them are. Once again, this is going to be cut, or I'm going to bend it or something. I don't know what I have to do to that yet to make this work. But I'm sure the people that made this made that longer than it should be on purpose. Because if you look right in this area here, you can see this edge is bent in. So the quarter panel itself will line up with that, and then you spot weld that. But we're not going to go ahead and bend that yet. We're going to wait until after we actually fit the quarter panel on the car and see what happens. Now what I might do is actually bend this all the way out of the way, because I know where my bend is here, but I might bend that whole thing out of the way and then bend it back in once we fit the quarter panel on here. So we basically went from this, and you can see what we got here. And I'm going to go ahead and take this off. I'm going to have to take it off anyway. Remove that. And we ended up with this. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete, showing you what you got to do this type of work. Like I said, if you've never done it before, don't be afraid. Just jump on in there, start figuring it out. It's just like a jigsaw puzzle. So we went from something like this to this right here, and we made it work.